Hello, I'm Ricky.
And I'm Joe, and this is season 5, episode 4 of the Beer and Broadband podcast. It's slated to come out on May 2nd, 2022. And with this one, we're going to be talking about a beer I made, the Brewer's Best Mexican Lager. I think it's actually Brewer's Best Cerveza, not Mexican Lager. I wrote it down as Mexican Lager. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Insteon and some NFT stuff. But first, let's get to that beer. So I made this with my daughter. She's not enough, old enough to drink, but sometimes she likes to help me make beer. And we made it together from a kit that's a Brewer's Best kit. And she's from Honduras, so she um, wanted to always make a um, cerveza or some sort of thing that's like a dos or something like that, right? Or my southern accent does not pronounce that necessarily well. But I've given enough time babbling, explaining the beer for you to maybe give some tasting notes while I take a sip.
Yeah, this is pretty good. I mean, it's a little bit bitter, but not too bitter.
Hmm.
Great color when I poured it. Great head. Little hoppy. Little. I don't want to say citrusy, but it's got that like lightness to it, like that kind of juiciness that comes from high acid fruits, but it doesn't really have that like acidic punch to it.
Yeah, so it is supposed to everything that was put in there was supposed to like be a lighter color, have a little bit more like tropical fruit flavors to it, just like you were talking about, like a mild kind of citrusy kind of flavor. And I know you had said you were going to put some lime in it. Have you done that
No,
yet?
I haven't taken that taste yet. I was waiting for the
Okay.
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, put some lime in it. I so the one that I got didn't when I poured it a little bit too close to the glass and it didn't like form like a head or anything like that. But I've drank a few of these and um when I first pulled them out, like when they were very, very young, they're about they're about a month and a half old now from the time that they've carbonated. So when I'd first pulled them out and had a few. They were a little bit more citrusy, and the hop character was a little bit further back. But now
Hmm.
the hop character is a little bit more forward, and the citrus character has taken a little bit of a step back. That's the best way I can explain it. The closest thing that I could say that it's kind of like is like maybe a Modelo Especial. Um, I guess that's how you're supposed to pronounce it. I know it's not I know it's not a Modelo Especial. You know what I'm saying. So, I'm trying my best, but it's some Modelo um, uh, beer. It's not as wheaty as other beers like this, and the process for brewing it was a little different too. So, so what's
Yeah,
going on with that lime?
man, it brings so much of that like citrus and fruit forward. Just having a
Mhm.
little bit of that acid in there.
Yeah.
It I won't say it like it changes everything. You can tell it's still the same beer, but I mean, I'm not sure. Like if I had another bottle of this, I definitely wouldn't drink the bottle plain. I'd put some lime juice in that one as well.
Yeah.
I'm not a big beer guy, but I'm gonna drink this whole thing, no questions.
Yeah, it's a really good beer. I I will say I haven't had a beer that I brewed this year that I was disappointed in. I brewed
Hmm.
3 this year, and over Christmas I brewed a few too. So I would include all of the beers that I've brewed in that category. But this from the 2022 batch that I've done, I think is oh man, that's no. I think Old Nevercracker is the better, which is as we learned when we were talking to Rob on D&D, is an old Fezziwig clone. Um, but I think I like that one the best. But this is really good.
Yeah, this one with the lime, at least at where it's aged right now, this is my number one. I'm
Mm,
gonna, like I said, like all the other ones I've tried, they're good. I generally don't get through a whole bottle. I'm getting through this whole bottle.
okay, well, you know. I can see that. It's not a it's I mean it's close for which one I like the best, but I think
Mm,
the old Fezziwig clone, the old Nevercracker is my like favorite one. There's something about that spice combo that really like I like a whole lot. The citrus, but like also that extra little bit of bitterness with that one that this
mm,
doesn't quite have. Um, but I now that I know how to brew something like this, I kind of want to go back and get all the right stuff to make another one that is like from either like me getting a malt kit and doing it or uh, uh, something like that, but picking all the ingredients myself.
mm.
So I'm looking forward to it. So moving on just a little bit. Have you heard? Do you know what Insteon is?
I mean, I saw it in the notes.
So Insteon was a home automation company, and I say was. They were a home automation company up until about last week, and they just shut down suddenly. And of course, all their stuff was proprietary. And so after they shut down, with no warning, no, um, this is possibly going to happen to their customers. If someone had to reset their hub or do something like that, it just like none of their automations would work. Everything was disconnected from anything like that. Now, if you know had your light bulbs and your light
Hmm.
switches and everything, and the hub was still plugged in or still working, everything's still working right now. But there's no like adding things to it or anything like that. Now, before I move on to why I put this topic in here,
Hmm.
any comments you have to say about like your thoughts on that or anything?
I think we did an episode a few years ago, right, about something similar to this, or really the idea that things like this can happen. That when you buy these proprietary technologies, especially for like Internet of Things, stuff like that, these companies don't necessarily stick around a really long time. And then what happens to your stuff after that? At
Right.
least it's good to hear that the stuff you have is at least continuing to work for now. Hopefully it stays that way for some foreseeable amount of time. But that's kind of the real, like, I won't say fear, but like that's the real gotcha with some of these home automation, home technology things, right? Because like the part of that people don't really talk about is that most startup companies fail miserably. It's really hard to be a startup in tech,
Hmm.
and like there's no guarantee that thing you're going to buy is still going to be there if it requires internet and outside servers and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna look it up because that just made me think about when was Insteon um, formed. But the reason I put this on here, like is exactly what you kind of hit on. A company that you buy this stuff from and it locks you into a thing like Apple or something like that, something that doesn't allow you to have interoperability or allow to like connect with something else or something else couldn't take
Hmm.
over, those sort of things, something like OpenHab or something like that. That really puts you in a place where you are, if that company goes down or it quits working for whatever reason, you're just kind of screwed when it it quits working. And
Yeah.
to be clear, from my understanding of how this has gone down, they didn't send out any notice to their customers. They just
Oh
shut it
no.
down. And the the way that people found out that it wasn't working is somebody like had to reset their hub and it just wouldn't work after that.
Yeah,
So
that's so
it's
weird. Like I'm on their
it's
website and they're talking about it. It sucks.
yeah. Well, so now I'm not really sure exactly how that's playing out because I don't know if they are actually talking about um their what they're doing and everything else like that. I know they have a little blurb at the top of their thing at their website. Um, but there are some open source uh, developers who are trying to set it up so that Insteon equipment and light switches and plug-in devices and all that other stuff will still work. But for the foreseeable future, if you have one of those hubs, don't reset it right now
Yeah,
until
that's a
until
shame.
you know.
Oh yeah, they
Yeah,
do all this stuff. I'm like looking at their products. Your dang like wall outlets. And I guess the wall power would still work. The remotes just wouldn't work. Like your thermostats. Oh, like wall keypads.
yeah.
Such a
So
pain in the
much
butt.
stuff.
That because like that's the stuff that I really worry about when people set up home automation. Is you throw this stuff in there, you get real comfortable with where like a lot of things are when they get hooked up because it's all like remote controlled or voice controlled and things like that. You don't think about it. And like as soon as this dies, can you imagine like your wall keypad to control a bunch of devices is just like in some corner somewhere?
It's just sitting there.
It's
You
no,
can't use it
it's
anymore.
well, I mean, like even if you could use it, it's like now the little remotes for it don't work. Maybe the physical buttons do, depending on how the stuff works. But like now it's no longer in like a useful place. Heaven forbid the sort of people that have like electricians come in and help install some of this stuff. It's like that's a lot of wasted money. So yeah, it really sucks. It's one of those things where I know I was dead air here as I form my thoughts, but like you pour a lot into things you own, right? So like cars that you're fixing up, people who like to trick out cars, people that like to, put a lot of stuff into their homes. Like that all costs more than just, hey, this is the thing I bought, right?
Hmm.
Like, they do these cameras and stuff in there. Look, a lot of people not probably handy enough to be installing a bunch of that stuff themselves. They're bringing people in to do it. Like I've got a handyman working on my house right now. What if I like paid my handyman 2 grand to take all this smart automation stuff and swap it all out for me? And now it doesn't work. It's not just the however much I spend on the automation. 2 grand to spend on the handyman. Gonna have to get it all taken out again to put something else in there someday, and it's like wasted money. So
Exactly. Now, there are things I think that are a little easier to do, um, and then there are things that are a little bit more um, long lasting. And so this was kind of like poised in between, like it was supposed to be interoperable between Alexa and Google. Oh, I just said the word. Sorry, everybody, for triggering your home assistant if you're listening to something. But it's supposed to be interoperable between the Alexa and then the Google Assistants that are out there. It's supposed to be like a thing that was kind of like the smart things. So now there's something to be said for these big companies like Samsung that have these proprietary platforms, but that are kind of interoperable that say, hey, we're going to be around for forever because we've been around for forever. And then
yeah,
you have and then you have things like OpenHab and Home Assistant and things like that that are these fantastic open source projects that you can get even hardware that's off the shelf, fairly cheap ish, and use it with that and probably like save some of this sort of equipment or reuse some of this sort of equipment, but ultimately you're still in a place where you're having to rely on someone else developing something for you for your home automation. The fortunate thing with something like Home Assistant is that once it's set up, unless you like lose your database or something goes wrong with it, you don't have it backed up, it'll just continue to work off of whatever it is that you have it on, right? As long as the kit is physically able to do whatever it was supposed to do, it'll continue to work. Things like this, once they're down because they have a proprietary hub that you don't have access to the code and stuff like that, it's just kind of gone. And there's nothing that you can really do about it. So that, if my Google Assistant widget over here that I keep on my desk that has like a little reminder thing quits working, or the one that's from Amazon quits working, I spent $50 on that. If I just kitted out my all my light switches in my house and all my light bulbs with something like this, I mean thousands of dollars, probably, just like you were talking about before. And then you had someone come in and put those things in, and that's where it starts to be like, hey, this is a little bit more than just a light switch, going out. You just
Yeah.
suddenly like took down my whole house because
Yeah,
I
you're
believe in the
you're
company.
talking price ranges at that point. It's like, oh, hey, my fridge service went up, and now my like food won't be cold anymore.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
it's a major cost sunk into that. And I'll even push back on what you said about Samsung because if anything, we had the episode not too long ago about the Zunes. If it becomes unprofitable, they'll drop it from the big companies.
Oh yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
So yeah, I feel like you're right. That right now, I mean, if you're really one of those people that want to get into home automation in like a serious way, you almost got to go one of these open source or build your own kit sort of deals, because at least then maybe it's not as easy to set up the first time, but no one's going to knock you out. You know, you're not going to wake up one morning to an "I'm sorry" email, and it's like, hey, look, we're going out of business. We'll leave the servers on for 2 months. Have fun. You
Yeah.
know.
Or just we turned it off. Well, sucks to be you, kind of thing.
Yep.
Well, I mean, hopefully, somebody will be able to, because I know that there's like a open source initiative to like fix that. And as much as like people that do open source stuff, and I'm kind of in that ballpark too, like where I'm involved a little bit with a few open source communities. While they may not be the people that you like socialize with the best, they are definitely the people that generally come to the rescue of crap like this and like bail stuff out, you know, which is good, I think.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So let's talk about some NFT stuff. So, have you heard about this guy that owns Jack Dorsey's first tweet as an NFT?
I know enough to like I knew that was a thing, but I'm not too like involved past that. I saw the
Okay.
memes.
Well, all right. So, kind of lay down a little bit of the background. Basically, this fella, and
Hmm.
I mean, he's famous. You can look it up to like get every single fact about it if you want to. He bought a picture, essentially, well, a nonce that says that he owns um, Jack Dorsey's first tweet, the NFT of it. Um, and he paid 2.9 million US dollars for that. And he now is kind of like, well, I want to sell it, and I want to sell it on something like OpenSea.
Oh no.
Yeah. And he's had a couple of offers, but not what he wants for it. What he would like to get is 25 million US dollars for it because he thinks this is like a part of history. And he feels like the value of it is this huge amount because Twitter is such an impactful and super important company. All right.
Yeah, not sure it's gonna work out for him.
So far, he's gotten an offer of $6,200 US
Yeah.
dollars.
And this is the kind of sad thing, right? That like NFTs are potentially such a great technology, and this is like what people are using it for.
Yeah,
It's a
I,
little painful.
it is. It's very painful. I think in that stuff. I think that from like an artwork perspective. So, um, part of my background is that I trained as a graphic artist for a while. I went to college for it. And I've never really necessarily held a job as it, so I'm not like I wouldn't consider myself a professional. I did, get a go as a studio artist, but there's a concept in art of having um, a certificate of authenticity. There's a lot of things like, collectibles have certificates of authenticity oftentimes, stuff like that. But for art, NFTs are great if you're actually creating something where you need to say, I sold you the original. The original had like this thing, and this is the certificate of authenticity, and therefore it is like put into something that like kind of makes it immutable. I think for things like that, it's great. Collectibles art as like an addition to a physical good, it is a way of like tracking that certificate and ownership. It's not necessarily anonymized like the blockchain often is kind of called out to be for privacy reasons, but it is a good way of getting a pretty significant ledger for that, right? But this type of junk is just that's just it's almost insulting.
Yeah, it's a little wild. Like, it's so good for replacing physical items that can easily be done digitally. Like, just look at anything we do digitally now. Artwork's a good one for like certain types of art, obviously not all art. Movie tickets. My wife wants to go take our kid to go see Frozen when it comes in, Broadway show in a couple months. Those could be NFTs. And it'd be so easy to like drive a little extra value by having some small little thing attached to that. I remember like when I was a kid, I was a little hip there for a little bit for kids movies to come with like a trading card, or like the Pokemon movie that came out was a big one that had those little like golden Mewtwo ticket things.
Yep.
And it's like that, just build that in. That's so perfect for it. Lets people kind of build up a little collection of things over time, not thinking about necessarily reselling them for tons of money. Like, this is almost like becoming money laundering at some point, where it's like, oh yeah, we're just trading this image back for $1 million at a time. Don't
Yeah.
worry about it, people.
It's no big
Yeah,
deal.
that's I think one thing I'm a little disappointed by, and how the world has reacted to crypto. Is it a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people are focused in on this. Hey, look, there's this thing happening in the crypto space. Some things like Bitcoin in the crypto space get really pricey, so I'm in this to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm in it just to sell it later, cash out for just more like fiat currency. And that's like not the point, you know?
100% not the point of it. It's supposed to not be. I mean, I definitely have like a little bit of a relationship where I do look at it, the value in fiat currency, but it's supposed to be something that gives you an alternative to ways of using currency, not to like be a a substitution for fiat currency, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's all about decentralized finance. It's like, this is a chance that this is a thing that I can trade with. Like, someday I might be able to use this in large places to trade goods. There's already a lot of communities now at a small level. Oh, I'm going to buy this thing from this person for, a tenth of an Ethereum or something like that. When I was doing my whole crypto studies, I mean, at this point, like over a decade ago, that's what I was doing with it. Like, buying items off of people and stuff like that. And it was all legit. It was just, people doing their own stuff without having to use the US dollar for it. And now it just feels like, oh, well, did you know whatever coin went up 50%? We gotta, okay, yeah, it's only still worth a thousandth of a penny, but we gotta put our money in this right now.
Yeah.
Did I tell you the story about the guy I met at the park who was talking about crypto?
No, you didn't.
Oh my, I didn't engage with him too much. And maybe it's not fair to say I met him, because I did not introduce myself. I was with my kid on the other side of this little park bench thing. And this guy was talking to his buddies about crypto, and he was the dudiest dude bro ever. And it was all about like, oh man, we could have made so much money on this. Oh, I hate Elon Musk because that thing he did on Saturday Night Live, it tanked the price of Dogecoin, and I was set up to be rich if I got high enough on Dogecoin. And like, that's all it was, everything to him. And he had no understanding of technology. I mean, this guy was talking about, he had like a little computer set up with like 4 graphics cards. He's like, yeah, we're mining real heavy on these. And I got a couple other machines. And he was talking about how like one of his buddies had a whole bunch of Dogecoin, and he lost the key to the wallet. He's like, well, dude, I'll tell you what, right now, he wouldn't let me do it, but I could have easily gotten that back from him. As powerful as my GPUs are, they would have cracked that password in seconds. And all I was thinking is like, well, anything worth its snuff after a couple bad guesses will lock you out.
Yeah.
And like most wallet keys are really long. Like the password you type in isn't necessarily, but when you try and like brute force something, you got 4 graphics cards and you're gonna brute force like a SHA 248, a 2048. Yeah, that ain't gonna work out for you, buddy.
I mean, you could
So,
so that it on a standard like password, you can take a graphics card like a regular graphics card and use that to run a rainbow table and possibly brute force something if it's, like in that table or something like that. If it's not, then even that's going to take months probably.
oh, if it's any decent length of password, it's taking a lot longer than that. I mean, even a decently powerful computer, you take like a standard like 12 character password, that's thousands of years to brute force. That's the whole reason nobody brute forces anything anymore.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know?
I mean that's what I was saying. Like if you're talking about like something that's in like a table, right? It's a
Yeah, if he's
like
got like one of the most 10,000 common
common
passwords, you're right.
password. Yeah,
You might
you
get it
can
pretty
get that.
quick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if it's something that doesn't match one of those, you're probably not going to have that happen. But anyways,
Yeah. So
that
he was
guy,
my antithesis. That's the guy you don't want to be in crypto. Talking about
that
all the
guy,
times he was almost a millionaire.
that guy. I mean, I too was almost a millionaire until I was shot down on being able to buy, or mine or whatever the amount of crypto coin that I wanted to do. Um, and yes, yes, dude, man, we we were similar in that way. Uh, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. When he first started talking crypto, I was like, oh, maybe. And then the more he talks, like, I'm not getting involved in that.
Yeah, I'm not talking to this guy.
That's,
Yeah. Well, do you have anything else you want to say about that topic? That particular topic?
no, just brew this beer and don't be that guy.
Yeah.
My 2 takeaways.
Well, maybe we'll have brew this beer and NFT at some point, and you can then have yourself an NFT of the topic that we talked about while you're brewing your beer to commemorate the moment that you brewed the Cerveza from Brewers Best. That might also sell you an NFT of the beer. What do you think about that?
Look, we'll find a way to NFT a beer. I don't know what it is yet. We'll figure it out.
A beer coin. Um. Anyways, so thanks so much for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. This has been season 5, episode 4, Beer and Broadband Podcast. We have a Patreon and a Twitter, and all those links are right below in our show notes. I'm also putting a link for the Brewers Best Mexican Cerveza. So if you do get that hankering to brew this beer, you can at least find the recipe or buy the kit. I think that it's worth buying the kit. It's only like $50, 50 US bucks, and if you can get it in your area. So have a good one, and we'll catch you next time.